You're listening to the Homeschool Made Simple podcast. This is a podcast to help you homeschool simply, inexpensively, and enjoyably. I'm Rachel Winchester, a fellow homeschool mom using this method with my own 3 children. In this episode, I'm joined again by our friend Chelsea Jacobs from Yellow House Story Shop to share the wisdom she's learned through having a special needs child. Chelsea tells her family's story and offers encouragement for other families who are wondering if it's a good idea to homeschool their child with special needs. Before we jump into the episode, I want to share with you a math program that can help you manage math for your family. CTC Math makes learning math easy and effective. Pat Murray uses creative graphics and animation in his short lessons to help kids understand math concepts with lots of time to practice what they've learned. Every grade level is included in one family-friendly price, and they even provide homeschool families with a special half-price discount. Start your free trial at ctcmath.com or click the link in the show notes. Now let's get into the episode. Welcome to the podcast, Chelsea.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you've been on the podcast a few times now, but today we're going to talk about a topic that doesn't get a lot of attention in the homeschool world in general, and we haven't really talked much about it on the podcast, but we get questions often about special needs and homeschooling with children with special needs and just kind of how to navigate that. So wanted to talk to you about your experience with your beloved son. So maybe you could just tell us a little bit about your story, your family, and get us started that way.
Yeah. So we have 3 biological children in a row, 3 girls. And then our youngest son is adopted from Rwanda. And we got to pick him up on his first birthday. So his name is Gabe, and he is the delight of our family. But even from the very beginning, we knew he had a lot of health issues just because of the nature of his birth in the middle of a country that wasn't really equipped for preterm birth, which he was born at 30 weeks gestation and was about 2 pounds, a little less than 2 pounds actually when he was born. So he's truly a miracle man is what we call him. God definitely had his hand on his life from the earliest of days. And so we got to bring him home at age 1. And shortly thereafter, he was pretty sick, and we were checked into the hospital in our town, and they diagnosed him not only with a seizure disorder, but also with cerebral palsy. So we knew that that was probably what we were looking at, but that was when we received the diagnosis. And then in God's miraculous ways, he really has healed him from seizures. He's had very few since we've had him, but cerebral palsy is definitely the biggest need that we face. For him, it's pretty severe. Cerebral palsy is basically a result of a brain injury, usually at birth or maybe from stroke activity in the early months of life. And so that it can vary child to child, person to person, based on what the severity of the injury. So for him, he is quadriplegic, and so his biggest limitations are his motor skills. We are so grateful that he does have a voice. He is able to talk. Again, it's with a lot of strain and stress a lot of times, but he's able to tell us what he's thinking and what he's feeling. And he is quite the jokester. You know this because you met him.
Yeah.
And he's just delayed in a lot of other ways as far as academically, cognitively. We don't have specific diagnoses around that, but we are kind of on a trajectory of he will be with us for life. And so we don't have educational goals necessarily for him. So that's part of why homeschooling actually works really well for him, but it also can be, special needs in general, any kind of disability is really hard to, like categorically tell someone this works really well, because I think it's such an individual, just like it is for any other homeschooling family, right? But yeah, it has been a true gift to our family to be able to have him along with us for homeschooling and just watching the Lord form him and make him just like he has all our other kids, So, but that's his story. He's from Rwanda, been with us now. He's about to turn 15 in March, which is crazy. So yeah, 14 years with our family, and he is definitely the baby in every way. He has 3 mamas, 4 mamas counting me.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a delight for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. And how old were your girls when he came home with you guys?
Yeah, our oldest had just turned 10. So 10, 7, and 5.
Okay.
Um, and they were a part of the entire adoption. We adopted, we were on the list for adoption for a couple of years. So they prayed for a long time for who our little sibling would be. We had not picked boy or girl. We did not indicate special needs or no needs. So we were really just praying for who the Lord had for us. And so they got to be a part because we were homeschooling. They went with us to Rwanda to go through all the different stages of adoption there. We were there for 5 weeks. So they really got to understand from the very beginning what adoption is all about. And also, yeah, have been a part of every single phase of figuring out what is best for him, special, like for his special needs, for his different um, physical disabilities. So it has been a family wide, yeah, ministry, I would say. But also, we are the ones who are so incredibly blessed. We say, like, truly, because his name is Gabriel, he was named by the mayor, actually, of his town where he was born, because they really cared for him until he had a family. So we say that he really is our angel
Yeah.
because he's changed all of us in the best of ways. So yeah.
Yeah, there's no doubt that he was chosen for you because you didn't make any of the decisions. So it's just obviously
Exactly.
this is the one that God had for us.
Amen. It's really humbling to be the ones chosen for him
Yeah.
because yeah, it's a sweet thing though for sure.
Yeah, maybe this would be, to think about as the children as born persons. And, when we
Mhm.
talked earlier, as we were thinking through what would be helpful to share with people, that was one of the things you brought up of how is that significant, especially when we think about kids who are limited in their abilities.
Yes. Oh yes. Yeah, if you think about what we believe about children, it's no different, that children are born persons, that they have dignity, they have inherent worth as image bearers, and they have unique, like, it's a whole adventure with any of our kids, right? To kind of discover the unique giftings that God's put in them, whether that's in personality and what they're passionate about and their giftedness and even their learning style. So it's really been sweet to see like he has gifts that he offers our family and the world, beyond our family, that are uniquely gifted in him. Like God called him out for a specific purpose. And so I just think that's really important to remember as you're educating any of your kids, but especially those that have delays or disabilities, that they still have gifts to offer and they still are on this trajectory of growth and learning, even if it looks different than maybe a typical child who's able bodied or not struggling through subjects, academically. But they still have gifts to offer and they have purposes that God's put in them from long ago. So, yeah, passionate about that for sure.
So when you first brought him home and you guys were homeschooling already and your kids, so kind of like, I feel like some of these things maybe as you're adopting, but then also there can be things that happen where you have hospital visits, or like you said, he had the seizures, and then you're trying to get diagnoses and all this stuff. And maybe that affects, you're having to give so much attention to Gabe at that time. And then you're not able to do the normal routines of your life with the rest of the kids. I feel like maybe some parents could feel, or maybe you felt, some guilt over that of like, I'm having to be with this child to take care of their needs, but I'm not able to be with these other kids. And especially if it's an ongoing situation, I'm sure that could be stressful. How did you kind of
Yes.
navigate that at times?
Yes, I absolutely had many, many, many days where it felt stressful or guilty. Like I had the guilt of taking away from something that, yeah, that because I was required here and you can't be in more than one place, right? But what I love about when I look back now, I think about just the sweetness of the flexibility that we have. For us, if we're having a hard day, we can rest more. And if we needed to have a therapy day, which we have had many therapy days over the years, everyone can bring a book, and so they were with us. They were with me in the therapy lobby. And I remember taking math and doing it in the car outside. And it was not ideal. There were days where I was frustrated by that, to be totally honest. It is costly for everyone in those moments, and you can feel that. But at the same time, I think about all the sweet things about that too. Like they loved going to the hospital where Gabe was seen by his neurologist because there was a popcorn machine and there was like there was like a Lego display that we always had to go see, and they loved. It was obviously a children's hospital, so it's child friendly even for the siblings, right? So they had so much fun, and to them, those were not days that were disruptions. They were learning the whole time. They were seeing how people care for others, and like I just think about. I mean, I still vividly remember a valet guy who was helping us get out of the car. He was actually helping us get back in the car after I'd had all these appointments. And those appointments are very emotional. Like I was overwhelmed by what they had just told me, already praying about what do we do with this information. And I have three others, kids with me. And I remember so vividly him opening all of their doors. And it still makes me emotional. But he said, "You're doing a great job, Mom." And like he probably said that to every mom that day. It's probably his ministry. But I still remember him. Like it matters. And so I still try to do that for other moms that I see, especially those who have a challenging handful, which is all of us. But it just, I think back to those times now and they're treasures. At the time you think they're disruptions, but really, again, we're doing all of life as a family and they're learning much more than academics. And but that's really hard on the days where you feel like academics should be the priority, So, and there were times where we really had to think through that. There were a couple of years where when the girls were getting a little bit older, and it is challenging because of the therapy schedule, because of his physical needs at home. Like he still requires, 3 meals a day fed to him and changing, and he cannot put on his clothes himself. So there's a lot of those kind of things that just have to take up some of our time. There were a couple of years in there where we had an in-home kind of an assistant who came in, and it ended up being such an opportunity for our family to minister to a woman who did not have family nearby. She was a believer and was just a powerful prayer warrior actually for our family. But there were disruptions of that. Like we have another woman in our house while we're trying to do school. She was actually fascinated by homeschooling. So she had a lot of questions for the girls. And so again, days where you're like, oh, it could be easier than this. But she was so helpful for us to be able to have some uninterrupted group time. And so she would just do stretching with Gabe, or like there were times where she took him to therapy and would be in his therapy room so she could tell me like what to do at home. So there were times where we had to have more assistance. The disruption was to the point where we were like, okay, we need to have some help in the house. So that was like 1 or 2 days a week where we did that for a couple of years. But, there's just so many seasons along the way. And so you do have to take a deep breath and know that the Lord will provide all that you need, and that every day might look different. There are days that need to go slower. There are days where some things take precedence, but it's all learning and it's all done as a family, which I think is the most beautiful thing. As I now have 3 girls out of the house, they're living in college and beyond. And they still have to call Gabe multiple times a week just to like talk to him about his day and hear how he's doing. So that it's like the family bonding that happened because they have not been separated is like just the most precious treasure. And really that's what we're all praying for. It's not necessarily that we could do math in its uninterrupted form every day. They learned what they needed to learn, and they learned far beyond what, the books could teach them, So very thankful for that.
JJ Side here with another classic from the archives of our ministry partner, Crossway Books, a tiny little book entitled Family Worship by Donald Whitney. I had the pleasure of sitting with Donald Whitney at Southern Seminary when I was in my doctoral work there, and I love how practical and encouraging this little book is, especially for dads who can often feel overwhelmed trying to wrap their head around the idea of family worship. Whitney walks us simply through the simple movements of read, pray, sing, and demystifies family worship for tired, busy dads. And as I look back over the years of doing family worship when our kids were in diapers and things felt really chaotic, I was grateful for the simplicity and the accessibility of his counsel. Family Worship by Donald Whitney. You can pick up a copy wherever books are sold, or visit crossway.org to learn how to get 30% off with a free Crossway Plus account. Now back to our show.
this approach where school is not just academics gives you that a little bit of breathing room and freedom there too, because then you're able to remember, okay, this isn't only about the study. Obviously, the study is a key component, but we're also serving and working together. And so what does that look like? And all of us have our unideal. And I think it just confronts the desire for this to be easy. I want this to go really smoothly and for there not to be any hiccups in this. And then you have that feeling regardless of what age or style of learner you have. And then you add someone into the mix who has higher needs and it becomes, could become all the more stressful, I feel like.
Yes. Yes. I mean, yes, you're so right. We're all trying to do it perfectly, which is not ever going to happen. And we're trying to do it efficiently, which also doesn't happen. So that's a good point. It doesn't even have to be that you have kids with delays for that to be a feeling you have. But yeah, all the rich things that are not measurable are the things that really now looking back were the treasures. Those are the things that are life-changing, like truly have shaped my other kids in ways that nothing else could have. And they are all passionate about that now too. They see that already, just being among other people. And it's like there's a lot that we can teach in books and through time together as a family and all of that. But I think about like just what this was able to form in my kids for having like a vision for the kingdom, just the way that Christ told us that things are upside down in his kingdom. Like we are formed by things that the world would not think would be formational as much as they are. So a life focused on self, an efficient life, like you said, is not formational. It's through a life of serving, like you said, it's a life of giving to the family, having to sacrifice. And yeah, just seeing that there are unique people in this world who need a lot of help, but they also have such joy to offer. Like I think about the joy that we have received from Gabe, and it's like I can't even describe. It's just uninhibited love and delight. And we still have so many like family jokes centered around him and his comments. And it isn't like a grin and bear it kind of relationship, like we don't have to just like, we got to keep giving to him, it's like we are deeply in love with him. And I can't even express how much he's changed us. He's grown us into better people, right? And we want to be with him. Like my kids miss him probably more than he miss their dad and I, but we're okay with that because he's just that precious. But anyway, so yeah, amen to that.
Yeah, that we actually receive when we give, but you're so afraid to give too much because it might rob you. And then but it's actually in pouring out that you actually get more back.
Yes.
Yeah, we definitely see that in your family. And Gabe is such a joy to be around and such a wonderful guy.
He is the best. I have to say.
He is. He really is. How did you guys go about navigating as you came to different seasons and things, deciding, okay, let's do this therapy, or weighing like costs and benefits, or does he go to a school, or, how did you kind of discern or make those decisions?
Yeah, I do truly, and I'm not saying this tritely, but we have asked for the Lord's guidance in every season. We are in the middle of another one right now, as he's turning 15. It's like everything changes again. So it has been such an opportunity to depend on the Lord. And I really do mean that, because he's the one who knows his body and his needs. And we just truly rely on him to show us. In fact, yeah, I'll tell that story in a second. But I think I look back and there were seasons of each thing. Like we would, I think therapy was a huge prayer. It's still a huge prayer. We are, of course, not completely traditional in a lot of the medications and some of the things that, for him specifically are recommended. And so we really had to do hard work of finding the people who are like-minded with us, like more of a holistic approach to his body and to his brain and all those things. But the Lord always guided us to who that would be for that season. And even now, like his occupational therapist and his physical therapist go to church with us. and are good friends who, like, his physical therapist was here yesterday, and she and Gabe are just dying laughing about all these, all these things that they have inside jokes about. So they're like part of our family, and that has been a sweet gift I would say that's been in the last 5 years or so that we have found these like-minded, believing people who are doing good work, and they are the best at what they do. But they're really devoted to Gabe and to what he needs. But there were a couple of years where he did go to it was a private school here next to our house, that's for specific needs, exactly like Gabe, because he could have all of his therapies there. He could come and go as he needed to. It wasn't like a school that required attendance. And that was good for a season as well. I think we really learned from that all of his physical needs were met. All of his teachers adored him. Like, I can't even explain what a gift they are. But we found like that rich home environment was missing. There are things that could be taken care of, and he loved his teachers there. But in the end, we decided to bring him back home because it was like the Lord was showing us for this season, like, time with his sisters is enough. So there were times where we took a break from therapy altogether. It's just like it's such I think about 14 years of him showing us this is the next move. This is the next season, really, truly waiting on him. And last year, Gabe himself started asking that we would pray for him to have friends. And so, you see when he's 14, he's developmentally delayed. So I would say maybe he's more like a 9 or 10-year-old in some of those ways. But he noticed that and really was like, I want to have friends. And right around there, a good friend of mine from church who also homeschools just said, like, my boys really want to get to know Gabe. Could we just come over and like play a game once a week? And it was just such a gift that I wasn't even sure where to go for what he was praying for, but I knew the Lord would answer his prayer. And so those have become good friends of his. And again, they are giving, they're pouring out. It's not exactly a friendship like you would imagine on the playground. But it has been such a gift. So there are just ways that he's met our needs in every season. And right now we're just praying for these years ahead as he becomes a teenager and just is growing and growing and growing, just for what God has for him in this next season. So it's a walk with the Lord for sure, and it can be really hard. I credit my husband really with just a confidence that we have done enough, because there's a tendency in my heart to always wonder if there was something else we should be doing, because and that's true for every mom, for every child. But there's always that question, because there's more therapy to be done. There's more doctors you can go see. There's more treatments. There's more curriculums. It's just like a never ending, I don't know, black hole of what you could be offering. And he is so quick to tell me on those days where I feel that weight, that he has a full life. He is so deeply loved. He has people who are praying for him and walking with us, and you have done good work. It's like you just can really have mom guilt on that. So, but looking back is always helpful, just to see, like, every season the Lord has not forsaken us. He has not let us down, and he has been perfectly on time. So we know he will be again in the next season. So
it takes courage to live by faith and not by fear.
yes,
To not be worrying about what you did in the past or worrying about what's going to happen on the horizon, but just trust that God's got it.
Right. Amen.
He's with you, but that definitely takes courage, and especially when it's not what it was with your girls, or I feel like you kind of get reps if when it's like your third baby and you're like, oh yeah, been here, done that. I know what to do, even though it's a different child and maybe I'm thrown a different situation or whatever. But you're like, okay, I've carried a baby before. I've fed a baby before. I know the normal, like the usual way that they progress. But then when it's something that's different, then it's just kind of like, well, was this right? Was this the way it should have happened? I can see how lots more doubts can come in.
Yeah. I mean, that's where I was. Yeah. I just feel like, even talking to my sister who also homeschools, she reminds me, she's like, Gabe has seen the world. He, knows more about like different countries and different places than anyone I know. She loves to like remind me of all the things that he knows that, that I can't measure, So it is helpful to have people who are walking with you just to remind you of what's true. And just to kind of, give you that encouragement on the days where you're like, have I done it enough? Have I done it wrong? But yeah, I think that's easier to question when you don't have a lot of, and I guess ours is very specific in the fact that we are not on an academic pace to, hit milestones. We are on a lifelong journey here. And so it just looks different. So it's kind of hard to know how to quantify those things. But I think about like the homeschool way with Homeschool Made Simple, um, all the ways, we even, the books that he loves. Like I think about all the Pooh books. Like we have read them over and over and over because he loves them so much. And whereas with my other kids, we would have read that and moved on to something else and then moved on to something harder. We're not necessarily moving on as quickly, but he knows and loves these characters like they are his friend. And so that is still the fullness of this method,
Yeah.
It just looks completely different maybe than a child who's advancing at a different pace academically. So it's a good sweet thing to get to have the freedom of homeschooling this way.
And you can't see all the outcome and like the outworking of everything that you've put into him because he doesn't have that ability to express it all and go out and do something, independently or something, but it still is inside of him and still germinating, still bearing fruit. And really it's a lasting fruit of what's going to endure, but we just so want to see external things and
I know. What is that? Well, I just feel like my husband is so much better at this. But Mark, when he was younger, every day they would go on a long walk. And it was to look for birds because Mark was a birder at the time. He still is a birder, and he would take pictures of all the birds and then show Gabe what they had found. And it was so beautiful because, again, with my tendency is to school it out, to be like, okay, we're learning birds. We're going to do, it's like read a book about it. And for him, it was just this like relational bonding thing to go on this long walk, see how many birds they could find. Mark's goals were not for him to then know all the birds. It was like, there was so many other things happening there, even just getting out in nature but aware of the birds. So it's been a good example to me too, of like, this can be like a slow, lifelong learning without end goals of knowing it all. And there are like all these valuable things that are, being hidden away in him, which are beautiful for sure.
Well, if you could leave any other mom who has a special needs child with a word of encouragement or anything, what would you say to them?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. I really I know how stressful it can be. I know it can be overwhelming to feel like, especially as homeschoolers, that you're getting it done right and meeting all the needs. There's just the physical needs, the emotional needs. There's just a lot on your plate. And I think just that reminder that we are raising true born persons who are well balanced and well rounded. And I just think of all the different things that Gabe gets to do, oftentimes with his sisters or with a buddy. He's in an art class at a co-op right now with his cousin, but just really, truly offering this feast to him as well. Like this beautiful life that includes all the different parts of a beautiful opportunity. So, but they're just building these relationships. And I think that is what I look over time. And that is the treasure. I guess just that you would just trust that the Lord is the teacher of your children. Isaiah 54 is one of my favorite verses. And that he goes before you and he's given you all that you need, because it's easy to doubt that when you're in the middle of those hard days. I am so thankful for this road and for all that we've learned and for the way it shaped us. And we wouldn't trade it. We really wouldn't. So it's a gift for sure.
Well, thank you for sharing you guys' story and just encouraging other families in your shoes.
Of course.
You've been listening to the Homeschool Made Simple podcast. If you like what you heard in this episode, please leave a rating and review on Apple Podcast or Spotify, or share this episode with a friend. It means so much when you help us spread the message of Homeschool Made Simple with others. Thanks for joining us this week on the Homeschool Made Simple podcast. Remember, Jesus' commandments are not burdensome. What he calls you to do, he will enable you to do. Blessings.